Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let me show you how you can set up your documents to easily navigate around inside them. Now, sometimes we work with large documents in Keynote, Pages, and Numbers, and it can be hard to navigate around inside them, either while you're working on them or as a finished document. But there are ways to set up tables of contents and links inside these documents to make it easier. So for instance, let's start off here in Keynote. If you have a large presentation, imagine one much larger than this, you can navigate around pretty easily using the left sidebar here. You should have it set to Navigator. If you have it set to Slide Only, you won't see it. But with Navigator, you can easily move around, select any slide, and jump right to it. But you could also do this while presenting. So if I play this slideshow here, and I'll do it in a window so we could see it very easily as a separate window here, you also get your presenter display. So I'm going to go to Play and then Show Presenter Display in Window. So I have my presenter display in one window, and I've got the presentation in another. You may actually have it set up where the presentation is filling an entire screen, and your presenter display is another screen, like the screen on your MacBook, where this is the screen in front of the room. So you could set up the presenter display to have the same little sidebar here and be able to jump around in your presentation. This is really useful if your presentation isn't necessarily linear and you just want to jump around in it to whatever slide that you want to talk about right now. But you could also set up your presentation with buttons to allow you to jump around, kind of a table of contents or navigation system. So I'm going to add an extra slide here at the beginning. I'm going to actually move it to the first slide, and you could add a link to some text in a text box, or you can add it to a shape. I'm going to create a little rounded rectangle here as a button. And with this button selected, I can go to Format and Add Link and add a link to a slide. You saw Command K was a shortcut there. We're going to see Command K a lot. So you can have it go to the next slide, previous slide, first, last, or the last slide viewed. In other words, go back, or a specific slide number. So you can have this say jump to slide 4 or slide 1, however you want it. Then you can actually put text in here, and you can just click here and go to that slide. If you're doing the presentation, so I'll play the slideshow here and it plays in a window, just one click is what's needed. You don't need to do that second step. Now, imagine on this slide you create an entire table of contents that jumps to specific slides, perhaps the beginning of different sections of your presentation. Not only that, but on a specific slide, or every slide if you like, you can add a button that actually goes back. I'm going to use a circle shape here, and I can use that Command K to go to the first slide like that. So now I have a way to go back to that first slide, and then a whole bunch of other links to take me into other slides. So you can make it very easy to navigate around in your presentation like this. You can even run your presentation on a computer and let somebody else actually click on the buttons to navigate around in an interactive presentation. If you find these videos valuable, consider joining the more than 2,000 others that support MacMost through Patreon. You get exclusive content, course discounts, and more. You can read about it at macmost.com/Patreon. Now in Pages, you have tons of options. For instance, here in the sample document, I have set the style for each heading here as heading style and the rest as body text. So if I wanted to create a table of contents, I could just go to Insert, Table of Contents for the document like that. It's going to look for all of the headings, and there are 8 of them, and create a table of contents. I can select this table of contents here, and I can customize the style. So it's just using heading, but it can use heading and heading 2 and heading 3 if I wanted to. And this does work to jump to different sections. So I can jump to page 10 by just clicking on number 10. And this works even if you export, say, as an EPUB or a PDF. This could be a way to help you get around in your document, but also a way for somebody else reading it later as a published document to be able to navigate around. However, you don't need to create a table of contents just for you to navigate around while you're writing. Under View here, you can choose Table of Contents as the sidebar. You don't actually need this. I can delete the table of contents completely here. It still will use under Edit here, heading or heading 2, heading 3, whatever you want, to fill this out. And you can use this to jump around inside your document. Super handy for while you're writing. Another way to do this is using bookmarks. This helps if everything isn't structured perfectly. I could select something, like I'm going to select this heading here, and I'm going to insert a bookmark, Option Command B. And this creates a bookmark. I don't need to do anything else. But here at the beginning, I can say insert a page break, or let's do a section break. So I have this empty one-page section here. I could have something here, select it, and then do a link just like before. But one of the links I can choose is to a bookmark. When I select this, I get to choose the bookmark. And you could see that that bookmark I defined before is in the list. So now I can click here and click Go to Bookmark. If this was a PDF I exported, it wouldn't have that second step. It would just jump right to it. The great thing about this is it doesn't have to be a heading. I could select any text and create bookmarks anywhere I want and jump to them. So I could define exactly what I want to be here. I could even use this while writing to jump to sections perhaps that I want to get back to later on. And as you could expect, there's also another way to get to bookmarks. In the document sidebar, there's a section here called Bookmarks, and you could use this to jump around to your bookmarks while you're working on your document. So you can just define bookmarks where you want them to be and then use this to get there. Plus, you may have noticed something here when I went to add the link for a bookmark, there was setup suggestions. You can use this to define different styles. We're just going to use the heading here for suggested bookmarks. So now in addition to bookmarks you define, you can also use the suggestions. So I can choose, say, this chapter 3 right here. I didn't have to create the bookmark in advance. It automatically suggested it as a bookmark because it had the heading style. Plus now we can also have links back to this first page here. So I'll do something like a table of contents like this. Let's change this to a different format here, like just regular body text. But I'm going to actually create a bookmark here. I'm just going to do insert and then bookmark there to make this a bookmark. Now, at the end of this section here, if I want to have a way for the reader to be able to jump back to the table of contents, I can do something like that, select it, Command K, and use bookmark, and then select that table of contents bookmark I created. So now when somebody reads this and gets to the end, they have a way to click and then return back to the top. Of course, Pages has two modes, word processing mode and page layout mode. If we do page layout mode here, we can create independent pages and say we're creating a 4-page newsletter, but probably a lot more pages if you're going to have some sort of navigation system. So you can, on this first page, have a piece of text or a button like the shape here that has something in it. And then I can just select the shape and I could do Command K, and notice link to now has page here. And I could set it to a page number. So I could have this link to page 4. I could have a link on page 4 that goes back to page 1. So you could produce a PDF, for instance, that has a navigation system, allowing people to jump to different pages using buttons or links in text. And what about numbers? You can actually do some of this in numbers as well. The main element for navigation here is sheets. So in this sample document here, I've created just a bunch of different sheets here, just with some sample tables in there. And you can just use the sheets list here at the top to jump to the sheets that you want. In the window menu, you've got some keyboard shortcuts for previous sheet, next sheet, first sheet, last sheet, but you don't have a list of sheets anywhere except here in this bar at the top. But you can create your own little table of contents. I'm going to create a new sheet here. I'm going to drag it so it's first, and I'll call this contents. And I could do this inside a table with text, or I could do it with text boxes. I'm going to use buttons. I'm going to use little shapes here. And I can have this link, say, to goals. I could select the shape, do Command K, and you can link to a sheet. And then it gives you the names of the sheets like this. So now I can click here and it will jump to that sheet. Likewise, I could have a back button. So I could do something like, this arrow here. I'll point it the other way, put it at the bottom right-hand corner, Command K, and I'll have this link to sheet and then select contents. So now I've got a way to go to goals like that, and then a way to go back to the contents. It's a little awkward that you always have to use this little menu here, edit or go to sheet, at least while you're working. But if you were to actually, say, export this as a PDF with all the sheets in it, then these buttons should work just as regular clicks to jump around. So I hope this gives you some idea of how to use elements like a table of contents, bookmarks, and links to be able to get around inside your documents, both while you're working on them and also after they've been exported as PDFs for others to use. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. Want to know about every new MACMOST video each week? Sign up for the absolutely free MACMOST email newsletter at macmost.com/newsletter.